Hello everyone, Luke here, and yeah, we're getting the next chapter out today. Chapter 149, the day the chapter comes out. We're getting it out today because it was such an exciting chapter. We have to get it done right here, right now. It focuses mainly on the demons, so it's nice to get back to them and find out exactly what their capabilities are, or where they stand, and how that's all gonna affect events moving forward. So yeah, I'm not gonna waste any time. Let's just dive right into the review. Alright, so this will be chapter 149. Yes, we're nearly up to chapter 150. Well, 150 weeks of this series. It feels like only yesterday since the series actually started. So yeah, this chapter is titled The Call of Duty. Now, I would make a Call of Duty reference here, but I've never played these games. They've never interested me in any way. But I will just say one thing. I know what they're technically about, so we'll just do a quick parody of it right now. Get on! That's basically all I've got, guys. So yeah, moving on. Alright, so the chapter starts off a few moments from the end of the last one when Emma and Ray were rushing off to save Norman, and we see just explosions happening all throughout again. If you remember, the way Norman perceived this plan going in place, like, okay, we're going to cut off the exit points and then we're going to lock all the gates so that nobody can actually get out of the city, they're all encased in this cage, sort of like what the demons did to the humans. Well, at the beginning of the series, where we saw all the farms and you only had those bridges to get to them, and then you had the gates and everything like that. Norman's kind of doing the same thing here, basically just sealing off all the exits so that the demons are trapped inside and basically prey to the humans at this point. So again, that's what I love about this series, how we've gone for a complete role reversal, and it's kind of showing the hypocrisy on the demon side, but at the same time showing the hypocrisy on the human side. Like, Norman is no better than the demons that were actually killing them in the first place, because if he was better, then he would just want to escape into human world and not want to exterminate all the demons to show he's much more stronger. And it's I can be better than you guys by not actually killing you guys. That's probably the philosophy that Emma would want him to go down. But at the same time, Norman has been through Lambda. He's seen all the experiences, seen so much more suffering than Emma has seen. Because she's actually had some freedom. Even though she's been in Demon World and been on the road, she's still had a lot more freedom than Norman has. So he's become a lot more bitter than what Emma and Ray are used to him actually being. We get Emma thinking of the flashback that she said, how her and Ray were related, and it's already started as we get the caption that reads, "Screams springing from the flames of violence." As Emma thinks to herself, we have to hurry while there's still time. We have to find Norman, because they obviously want to actually save him at this point, and actually give him an opportunity to actually redeem himself in their eyes. But as they reach the gates, they notice something. That takes them completely off guard, and it turns out that they actually get into the royal capital area, but they actually find the place that Vincent and his forces blocked off to actually seal all the exits to actually the royal capital itself. Rather than the whole city being cut off, it was just the royal capital, because that was Norman's goal, to actually take out the royal family. But as we'll see later on in the chapter, that may not be as easy as Norman expected. Before Emma continues on and says, blocked again, and we get a grit on her face, damn it, we were so close and now we're blocked off again, there's nothing we can do. And Ray says to her, there must be another way, let's go back, as he calls to Emma before Emma says, wait, and she sees that there's actually one window above the gate. So you have the gates, and then you have a smaller window that basically someone of Emma's size and caliber could actually get into. And this is when Ray thinks back on a flashback of a plan that him and Emma came up with, and he becomes amazingly startled that Emma actually discovered this, and discovered this area, and discovered okay, there's actually a way to get into the royal capital. But of course, for Emma to get into the royal capital, that Ray has to stay behind to actually lift it up into that hole to actually give her a chance to actually go and find Norman. So it looks like we will be losing Ray at this point. As Ray notices this observation from Emma, he puts his hands basically like that, like basically to like just spring somebody up and give them a boost. He puts them together and says, "It can work," as Emma, without hesitation, thinks to herself, saying, "We're coming, Norman, hang in there, everyone," as she thinks back on everyone that has basically been distraught by the war that's actually been going on for thousands of years between the humans and the demons, and how she just wants it to be over at this point, so that both species, in her eyes, can sort of coexist with each other without having the notion of one hunting the other all the time, and vice versa. As she goes on to say, "We're going to stop this war, we're going to stop Norman, because I get the feeling that if Norman is not stopped, then her promise of reforging as well cannot come to fruition with the deal that she made with the Demon King." And Ray, as he lifts her up, he's just like, "Go!" Just like that, and it's like, go Emma, do it!" As he pushes her up, and Emma just leaps up into the air, up towards the hole. As we get the caption and the title card, which is obviously the calling of duty, and it's getting over all despair. And we just see Emma just lift herself up, going up onto the hole, and actually reaching the top at this point. And that's the last we see of Emma and Ray in this chapter, as we again focus more on the demons. Like this is mostly a demon-centric chapter, as we cut back to the demons that are basically in the royal capital, and we see that at this point Pumbaa, Nomu, Nomus and Bayon have all just been sorted, leaving Ervok and the Queen herself as just the last two actually standing in the way of Gillen and the throne at this point. As Ivik says, "This is a concern." Dolman himself was just basically slaughtered at this point, like just slaughtered in a blink of an eye. And he goes on to say that he was the war chief of the House Gillen. Low-born though he may have been, his battle prowess was formidable, maybe perhaps second only to Her Majesty. Now keep that in mind, that Dozer in Ivik's eyes was basically like the second strongest of all the royal families, second only to the Queen, and the fact that he was taken out that easily just again shows the power scale of not just Gillen's forces, but also his Gillen himself, but also his underlings as well. Because as Elfert goes on to say, yet he fell at a single stroke, with never a chance to react. Moreover, it wasn't even Gillen, it was just some servant. So keep that in mind, of the fact that just the servant was able to take out basically the second strongest fire that the royal family had to offer, or basically the whole of Demon World had to offer. Like, despite the fact Dawson may have not been as intelligent as some of the others, he was still a formidable force, and the fact that he was just taken out that easily, that just gave them a holy shit moment, kind of. It's sort of like in Bleach, when we had Chojuro, who was the lieutenant of the 1st Division, basically was the right hand to basically the most powerful Shinigami in existence at that point, and he was taken out that easily, not even by the leader of the opposition, just by one of his underlings, and not even one of the higher up underlings. It was like more of like the middle tier underlings. It's sort of like the same thing here, how Dawson, despite being the second strongest demon in the entire royal capital, was just taken out in the blink of an eye, didn't have even a chance to react, and it was by one of the underlings. So that gives us just a power level in difference, and how they should not be underestimated. But this being the Queen, she's obviously gonna believe in all her powers, and to be fair, she does have the skills to pay the bills, as we'll soon see. Everett goes on to say that the servant is a capable warrior and aide de camp, and not the only one. Not the only one. All the 10 something surrounding Gillen seems to be some sort of elite force. So Gillen is not wasting any of his strongest fighters. Like, okay, if I'm going to take down the royal family, I'm going to have to bring my strongest fighters to this situation that I've made with Norman and myself. And even then, some of us might not make it out of life, but we might have a sporting chance because of just how much power we actually have, despite being despite being given over to the wilds. We've still been able to maintain some power, and we still have some strength within us. As Ivor goes on to say, what a lord, what a house. Clearly, he's been underestimating them and not realised how much of a sheer threat they could have actually posed until it's actually brought right in front of his face. As he goes on to say, and yet something is odd. We assume the Gillen forces were the cattle raiders, but if so, they surely have eaten the produce that was stolen from the land of this series of farms. Yet, when they came, their shape was doubtlessly close to Wiles, which means this attack, and not just this attack, but all the raiding too, were orchestrated by someone else. But who? Such a strategist and execution. Who is it? As we get like Ervik on one side and Norman on the other. So again, Ervik is just being like it's just being so arrogant here, and so you could like he knows like, okay, all of this could not have been accomplished just by Gillen alone. It had to be somebody else that was orchestrating this entire plan in order to overthrow the royal family and get Gillen basically as the king of the demon world. But at this point he doesn't even consider the fact that it could actually be a human, and not even just a regular human, just like one of the premium goods from one of the farms as well. And that again shows just how much of an arrogance some of these demons can actually be. Like, they're clearly underestimating the power and strategy that humans themselves actually do possess. As Ervik is contemplating all of these thoughts through his head, we see the Queen like just basically prying in front of him, and it's like, enough. Basically like, okay, you're not going in front of it, stay behind me. So this shows clearly just how valuable Ervik is to the Queen, as they will explain in a minute, with them going, the Queen had Ervik back down. I see. Ervik may well be considered to be the cornerstone of the crown. He was there before the Queen, always the one to administer all practical affairs. Should he die, the Queen herself would be in trouble. Okay, so Ervik is basically sort of like the grandmaster of the royal family. Like, even though the Queen is the one who issues out all the orders, it's like she can't handle all the other affairs and all the practicalities of how the world is supposed to operate. So, and she has Ervik basically be sort of like her orchestrator or something of her speaker, her public speaker, to actually be like, okay, this is what's happening here, this is what's happening there, okay, I've got this, and if he died, then the Queen will be like, okay, so this is all here, and it would be basically all over the place for her. So that's why he is quite valuable as a piece in her army, and how she doesn't want him to die, because again, basically he's like her right hand man and her confidant, and basically the one that drives all the other people. Like she's the figurehead, whereas he's the one who actually takes initiative and does most of the actions himself. Even though the Queen could probably do it herself, it would be very daunting for her and a very impossible task. And with a war going on, that would just make things a million times worse. As Gillen's forces go on to say, very well, we can deal with him at our leisure after we take the throne. We can kill the Queen right here. After he eats her and that human kid, Lord Gillen shall be king, and we'll be the ones to raise him his crown. So basically, it's basically just revenge at this point. Like, they were kicked out, sentenced to the Wiles, for basically just wanting to benefit to the whole demon race. So they're like, okay, so we've been thrown out. We were trying to make the demon race a safer place for everyone, and we got kicked out for it. Screw you guys. We're going to come back, take a crown, and then we're going to be dishing out the orders right then and then, and then you'll see how it likes it. And the fact that they actually said that that their plan ultimately is to kill Norman, again, that just makes me think that Norman is still for the chopping block. If there was one main character that was going to die in the series, it would have to be Norman, because again, he's not the same character, and the fact that he's turned more to the dark side and become basically more of a major antagonist in this arc makes me feel a little bit more unease for Norman. But that's for later. Continuing on, they go on to say, your head is next, Queen Lima. How, guys, seriously, how do you pronounce this name? I can't figure it out. I honestly cannot figure it out, and it's just driving me insane. But whatever. The subordinates of Gillen basically surround her, basically saying like, "There's no escape right now." But the Queen, just being so smug about it, it's just like, I've got this. As she goes, fools. And we just see like the top half of all of many of the subordinates of Gillen basically just shredded like then and there, like literally in the same manner like Gillen basically killed Bayon and Noma. Before we could even react to it, they were just like gone. It was like, it's over, Queen. And it's just like, whoa, what? But this is all explained as the Queen jumps up into the air and just uses her claws, like just extends her claws, which is an ability we have seen when she was first introduced, how she killed that butterfly, but just having one of the claws just basically extend like that, like to an insane length. And of course she can do it with all of her claw, hand, thingies, and she jumps up into the air and basically just... okay, so she's like round here, and she basically just jumps in the air and just like that, just slices them like butter, basically. Most of the forces of Gillen himself. As Gillen forces try to fight back and are basically being murdered by the Queen's just like strength in itself, and that's another very important thing that we need to discuss here. It's like the Queen's actual strength itself, just for the fact that she was able to just do that in the blink of an eye to not just one soldier but also but 3 soldiers at the same time, and has those long arms, pretty much puts her on an even playing field with Gillen at this point. Yet because they both have insane speed at this point, and that's something that's been obviously built up ever since Lewis first appeared. And we obviously assume that, okay, since Lewis and the Queen are brother and sister, they obviously have some sort of ability that's on the same level. And obviously Gillian's just shown that ability recently when he was able to just kill Bayon and Noma. So it's kind of like puts them on an even playing field. And it'll be interesting to see what does happen when the Queen and Gillen actually do have to clash heads and basically come to blows with each other. That's if that actually happens. But we'll just have to wait until the end of the chapter for that little revelation that comes about, which I am going to be talking about when we get to it, because if it does what a certain point in the series did ages ago, I'm not going to defend it. I didn't defend that point, and I won't defend it if it happens here. But continuing on, Gillen's forces go on to say, do not falter. This was the chance that was given to us shall not be wasted. As we cut to a flashback of after Gillen has actually been sentenced to being exiled from the royal family and falling to the wilds. All his subordinates are like protesting, saying, why would such a lord, such a clan, there must be some sort of mistake. He would never rebel. Impossible, absurd this is. As Albert goes on to say in the flashback, you question the Queen's judgment. Inconceivable. Mind your tongue. Those who raise their forces to the throne shall meet the same fate and be condemned to fall. So it's sort of like, okay, they want to rebel against this situation, but they're kind of being twisted lines like, oh no, you're not, because if you rebel against the Queen, we're just going to kick you out with these guys as well, and you'll become wild demons as well. But this is what I feel like that why Gillian's kind of so different. Like, yes, even though Gillian's being framed, they're like, no, there's no way he would be doing that, and they're actually completely loyal to him to the point that eventually they will go and sacrifice themselves for him as well, as we'll soon see. As Gillen is locked up in his cell with what I assume is his wife, and his subordinates actually come to see him, he says, cease this. It is not enough that we be punished. It is not your duty to take this upon yourself. As we see just how distraught these demons actually are, that their leader is being framed for a crime that he did not commit and he didn't want, and actually it was something that could have benefited the whole of demonkind, and not just the royal family, but also the ones that they rule under. So it's like, without him there, what are they supposed to do as they continue on? And they say, oh woe of woes! Even now, our lords are doing their best for us. And again, this is why I've sort of like respected Gillen more and more as we found out more about him. The fact that all he cares about is his people. That's really all he cares about, and it's like, and he's like basically saying to them like, look, don't do this, don't fall into our trap as well. Like, we brought up this plan. I was thinking of this plan. I was thinking that maybe this plan would actually work for all of us, but it turns out that nobody else saw it the way I did. So if it just has to be me, just let it be me. You guys don't have to get yourself involved in this mess. But again, that's what makes them rally behind him so much, in the fact that he cares about them and he wants them to be happy just as much as he would want himself to be happy. And to be in this difficult situation where he even though he appreciates what his subordinates are saying, he knows that he cannot let any more suffering happen to his people, and he's trying his best to actually get them to like stay back and not actually rebel against the Queen. But of course they're like, we care not what might befall ourselves. We serve but one master, and his name was Gillen. We shall not yield. We are united in our resolve. So that's what I love most about this clan. It's like, okay, they are an actual clan. They do actually look out for each other, and if one of them goes down, then the other goes down, despite what they might want to say about each other, and whether or not they agree whether it's the best thing to do or the wrong thing to do. They're still connected tightly, and it's like, look, we live for our master. We live for Lord Gillen. He deserves to be free. He doesn't deserve to be in this mess. And if he has to go down, then so be it. We will go down with him to prove just how loyal we are. And this is even more apparent when we see something else that happens in the chapter moving forward. But let's continue on. They go on to say, Lord Gillen is innocent. He always was. We shall never accept the filthy lies raised against our master. Which of course they're protesting to Dorsa, who goes on to say, you're gonna mantle yourself for the sake of duty, morons. Again, showing just how arrogant some of these demons can actually be, and again, this arrogance is their undoing, as it was for Dorsa. As we cut to the wilds and we see like the Gillen clan basically dissolving back into just basically wild animals, we get a thought from one of the demons that goes, in the process of the fall, our master lost his most honourable wife, not to mention the rest of his family. So you can understand the motivation of Gillen. He basically wanted to help all of demonkind, and instead, what did he get? A sentence to the wild and basically losing his entire family. So no wonder he's pissed off at the system, and it's understandable, because I would be as well. And if that happened to me, I would probably want some retribution or want some revenge as well. But again, this is the theme of the series. One of the major themes of the series, how revenge just leads to more revenge and leads to more war and leads to more bloodshed, and it doesn't really make anybody that much more happy. In fact, it just makes them that much more bitter. But again, the subordinates of the Gillen clan really respect him and really look up to him, to the point that they'll say stuff like this: "Unacceptable. We cannot let it stand. That our master is lost to the wilds." As we see Gillen is just like this raging beast, like just this basically before he gets back some sort of speech, he's just this raging beast that's just towering over them. Over them more than he probably would have been doing with Norman when he was first introduced. As they go on to say to him in this state, "Please devour our bodies, then run and live, Lord Gillen." So basically, that's how committed they are to Lord Gillen. How they would sacrifice themselves just to give him an opportunity to escape and actually have some sort of intelligence and not be just this wild, raging beast. After Gillen devours his subordinates, we see some of the demons who are just like groveling, who are just like sobbing over the deceased corpse of their fallen comrades, and saying, "We managed to survive only thanks to the sacrifice of our people. This life is a gift, so it's our duty then to prove the righteousness of our cause." So it's so basically them saying like, these people, our subordinates, they gave their lives to give us a chance to actually continue on and actually get back on our feet after everything was snatched under us. So we cannot let this chance go for granted. We're going to get our own back. We're going to go to the Royal Capital and we're going to slaughter every one of them for what they did to us and get ourselves back in control and basically take the throne for ourselves and rule the world how we would want to. And I feel like Gillen would actually do it to the beneficial of the whole of Demonkind and not just the royal family in this regard, like what the royal family has been doing for the past 700 years or 1,000 years at this point. So again, that's what makes me respect them. It's like, okay, our people gave their lives for us, so now we have to return the favour by avenging the deaths that the royal family basically forced us to commit on them. We cut back to the battle between Gillian's forces and the Queen. As we see Gillian's forces, I believe what actually happened here is that they're basically turning back into wild animals at this point, because I feel like they have been unable to maintain their form for as long as they initially thought that they could maintain. I believe, let me just check. Yes, I believe that's what's actually happening here. Like, the Gillian's forces are basically turning back into the wild beasts rather than maintain the form in the same way that Gillen has been able to maintain his form. I don't know whether that's because they haven't been able to sustain eating demon or human meat or whatever meat they've been subsisting themselves on for quite some while now. So maybe maybe that's probably the case, that they're changing back into more of those wild, monstrous forms, as the Queen just has her arm like that after slaughtering basically what I can amount to about 10 of their forces, as she goes, "How futile! Your insolence does nothing but prolong your pain." So basically saying, you're only denying the inevitable because I am the ruler here. I've won, you have lost, and there is no way you are going to get the crown from me in this state. But of course, the Queen, just being as arrogant as she can be, doesn't seem to realise that they'll probably have some sort of plan to basically just give you the middle finger, and that's probably an arrogance that's going to be her undoing, as we'll soon see. One of the demons basically charges for her, but she just basically just like that, just without even a chance to even get a word in edgeways, just like that, just cuts off his head, as we get a thought of one of the demons saying, "We did not endure our fall. We did not devour one another." And then we get another thought that says, "To let your nobleness flatter yourself with dumb, satisfied smiles," as we see basically the entire royal family basically it's just basically a thought to them, like just the royal family looking down on them like fools, and basically not thinking about the consequences of what could have happened once they had exiled the Gillen clan, and the fact that they would have actually come back to actually take the throne themselves, and them just saying that they have dumb, satisfied smiles basically shows that, yeah, we got rid of them, but we're not going to do anything else with them. Now, if they really wanted to stop them, they would have just killed them there, right? Killed them there once they went to the wilds. They would have just sent someone out there and be like, right, kill them so that they can't do anything foolish to us in the future. But of course, it was that pompous arrogance of the royal family that just brought about their downfall, and now it's just Ivok and the Queen, and I'm pretty sure soon it's going to be just Ivok, as one other demon goes on to say, this is not over until our victory, for our cause is just, as the Queen just is sick of everything at this point, as the demons once again point spears at her, and she's like, "I'm tired of this." As they go on to say, the moment of our revenge means everything, and the demon, I believe, who's been relaying these thoughts, just behind the Queen, open to get a sneak attack, as he goes, "Be gone!" But then the second the Queen notices this, what she does is okay, so the demon is behind her, so what she does is like basically like that, just with lightning speed, just like turns her body around, just like that. Quick reflexes of the Queen, I must say, and it's just so satisfying to have a character who can have this pompous attitude and actually have the skills to pay the bills, rather than just being like, "I'm the best, I cannot be beaten." It's like, "Oh really? Prove it. Okay." Like that. That's basically what the Queen has been saying. Yeah. I am pompous and I can back this up with my skills as she's demonstrated, because I imagine she's not been in a battle of this caliber for quite some time, and the fact that she's still been able to just do this despite the threat that Gillen's forces have actually presented to her by just killing about 4 out of the 5 members of the royal families, and the fact that she's just been able to overcome them with just ease is quite impressive on her part. As she goes on to say, "You were good, but not good enough." As Gillen's forces say, a direct attack on a royal was hopeless, but we always knew that. So again, they were probably aware that this is a suicide mission, but they're like, we don't care if it means getting Gillen on the crown. We are going to take that risk, even if there's like a 1 in 14 million % chance that will actually come out on top. As they go on to reveal what they've been hiding on their cloaks. Like, yes, even though they're on the verge of death, they're still not giving up, as they reveal under the cloaks that they have dynamite explosions. And this is the point that I was getting to, as we'll talk about it in just a moment. As the Queen looks stunned, she's like, "That's..." As we cut back again to the flashback with the demons and going on, "It was an honour to serve you, Lord Gillen. We'll leave the rest in your hands." As we get the caption, "The blade of duty pierces through evil." As one of the demons goes, "Long live King Gillen!" And then we get a big old explosion as the Queen's like, "Oh my god, they've got explosives on them," and the Queen is just engulfed in flames as her spawn's going, "Your Majesty!" And that's where the chapter ends. So, wow, this was an epic chapter, if I do say so myself. I'm not even exaggerating with that. This chapter makes up for the last chapter, because the last chapter, well, was good. It wasn't really one of the more hype chapters. Like, oh my god, wow, that was something. Like, we got to see the power level of just the Queen and how easily she can fight, and how crazily strong she is, and how if Emma ever had a chance to meet the Queen, I doubt it would have been an easy victory, in the same way that Lewis wasn't an easy victory. But at the same time, this explosion seems to signify the end of the Queen. Although that's something that I'm actually debating on. I'm sorry I paused there for a second. I was just trying to think of how to say this without it being a little bit confusing. Okay, so if you remember when Ray almost committed suicide, we had that big explosion closure to the chapter. I'm telling you, if this happens again, then I am not defending it. If the Queen survives this explosion, I am not defending it. I am not defending it in any way. Now, that's kind of a double-edged sword for me, because on one hand, I kind of want her to survive so that she can have a conversation with Emma, but at the same time, I don't want her to survive, because then that undermines all the character development that we got from these demons in this chapter, how they sacrifice themselves, how they give their lives for Lord Gillen, for a chance for him to actually take back what is rightfully his, after it was basically stolen from him, his whole life and his whole family, to get that revenge and to give that sense of like, yes, we outsmarted you, we won, we are stronger, we've proven this by going into your capital and just basically sawing all of you. So we are strong, and to see that taken away from them again, that would be just like a big middle finger to everything that happened in this chapter. But the chapter itself was just amazing, like really epic chapter beyond belief, and let's just hope it's not ruined by some bullshit that happens in the next chapter, which I hope doesn't happen, but we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, guys, that was it. What did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lashanuke signing off. Later, guys.